So I'm Fabio Dalla, Venezia, and I'll just give a quick introduction of who I am. If you're wondering, I am an Italian South African living in the UK. My parents were born in Italy, and they raised me, and I grew up and spent my whole life in South Africa. I got married in South Africa. I had 3 kids in South Africa up until about 2 years ago, where I left and joined, I left for the UK, and I joined an organization called OCTUPUS, who specialize in investments and energy. So just as a bit of a background on my professional background, I originally qualified as an accountant. I then went into finance management. I sort of morphed and worked at a consulting or solution company, and built some pretty cool tech to automate certain processes within the finance industries. And now I look after all the finance systems that we have in place at OCTUPUS. So to make sure I'm not your typical accountant, I do usually like to start my talks off with a couple of jokes, and they are generally dad jokes, as I'm a father of 3. So here we go. If you can give me honest feedback at the end, thank you. Okay, so here's the first quick joke. It's a tech joke. It goes, I saw a great movie today about databases. I can't wait for the sequel. Then the next one is, did you hear about the monkeys who shared an Amazon account? They were prom mates. How does a computer get drunk? It takes screenshots. And why did the presentation cross the road? To get to the other slide, which is what we're going to be doing now, and kick off the presentation. So I've been tasked to go through the definition of digital innovation. So first we're going to look at the defining innovation, which is a very important step of what this looks like in your organization. Secondly, we're going to be identifying and removing obstacles to innovation internally. Thirdly, I'm going to be sharing some opportunities for applying innovation throughout your organization. And lastly, we're going to look to how to accelerate innovation in digital transformation. So defining innovation. It is, the Oxford Dictionary definition is the introduction of new things, ideas, or ways of doing something. The word innovation comes from the Latin word innovare, which means renew. So obviously new things, new ideas. Before we get any further though, I would like to just play this cool video by David Briere explaining what is innovation.
What is innovation? Life is made up of dots. Many, in fact most people, believe that the dots they see every day are all the dots there are. So life goes along according to these known dots. Decisions and solutions are based on these commonly known dots, as well as many conclusions too. Some companies build their entire businesses on these known dots. This we know as the status quo, business as usual. Then one day, someone comes along and sees one or more dots beyond the commonly agreed upon dots. Dots that others missed, dots that are ignored, dots that others have long since forgotten about. Some like these new dots and celebrate this new discovery, liking how things currently are and comfortable with everyday dots. Some protest these new dots. Some even claim they are invalid, or worse, are imaginary dots that don't even exist. Yet, it's these new dots that potentially change everything. What is the source of these new dots? Notions, unexpected connections, ideas, possibilities, and imagination. Fire was one of these dots. So is the wheel, and the bicycle, and the automobile, and the computer, as well as the internet, the smartphone, and the tablet. In fact, many of today's common dots were at one time uncommon, newly introduced dots. So what is innovation? Those other dots, the ones others miss, and having the certainty to know that the dots you see are not only valid, but necessary if the world is to move forward. What is innovation?
Cool. So, defining innovation. This is my definition based off the previous slide. So it's the introduction of new dots or ideas and solutions using technology to add value to people performing labor-intensive processes. So I guess the first two keywords I would like to highlight is something new. So something you have not done before. It's uncertain, it's unpredictable, it's out of the ordinary, let's call it that. And secondly, it's valuable. So it either adds a gain or reduces a pain for someone. And then the next three highlighted text is using technology to add value to people performing labor-intensive processes. So those three areas is people, process, and technology, and we will get to them a bit later in the next couple of slides. So next up, I want to take you through the jobs to be done theory by Theodore Levitt. So this quote was made popular by him, and it forms the foundation of jobs to be done theory. So it's kind of like the notion that people buy products like drills to get a certain job done. And the job in this example is to create a 1/4-inch hole. So it sounds simple enough, but companies are in business to create products and services to help customers get the job done, basically. And the theory goes on to say that it is a deep understanding of the job the customer is trying to get done that reveals the unique insights that can make innovation more predictable, which is proven to be pretty true. So companies need to try and understand exactly what the customer wants and what job they need to get done. Now, to do this, we normally, well, I normally like to ask sort of 5 questions, and it's always the why question. And you sort of drill down into the detail to try and identify the root cause. So for this example, you'd start asking, why do you want to drill? Why would you want a 1/4-inch drill? And then the typical answer was, because I need a 1/4-inch hole. And then why would you want a 1/4-inch hole? Because I need to hang a picture. So the guy's gone into a hardware store looking for a drill, but in theory, he could have used another method. He could have used a more simpler method of just a nail in the wall or a Hilti hammering it up. So as you ask these questions, why, you actually drill down further and really find out what the customer wants and needs. And, you know, if you ask again, why do you want to hang a picture? It could be saying, well, because of COVID, I'm in lockdown and I want to make my new office room more attractive and I want some pictures up. And it really just filters down to see exactly why the customer has certain wants and needs. So I don't know if you all know Super Mario and have played the game. So we all basically want to eat the fire flower so we can throw fireballs, right? But I think a big thing about digital innovation is that it shouldn't be seen as a tool. It should be seen as a way of thinking and a way of approaching problems. And that, you know, people talk about innovation as a solution, and again, it just kind of messes up the focus and allows you to only focus on technology where there are other pieces to this problem, which we will get into. So we're going to get into the golden triangle, which I spoke about earlier, and that's the people, process, and technology. So to get things done effectively in any organization, it kind of requires an approach that optimizes the relationship between these three. And by focusing only on one or two of the areas, it causes an imbalance, which will end up costing you a lot of money and time, or even the people within the organization will also get frustrated. So for example, if you take a new tech solution, many organizations believe that by implementing this new shiny tool, all of their problems will go away. But that's not seeing, it's only as good as the processes that are implemented and by the people who execute them. There again, therefore, technology can't be the solution to any problem by itself. So the question is how to get the balance right, and a place I always like to start is with the people. I personally love the saying, teamwork makes the dream work, and that's where internal culture plays such a big part. Ensuring you have the correct core belief system and everyone in the organization is on board is imperative. So if your organization promotes an entrepreneurial growth mindset, then new ideas will flourish through the people. You then would need to assemble the right team that have bought into this belief system. I also believe that skills can be taught or learned, but the right attitude can't. So you need to ensure that the people you have on board are, buy into the overall belief, and that you give them the necessary power and that they feel empowered to sort of make bold decisions and come up with new ideas. And then on the people side, it's not only internally, but also externally, and outward customer focused, ensuring the customer needs always come first, and looking how we can ensure that day-to-day interactions with our customers are pleasant and encompass the digital world as best as possible. So next up, we will look at process. One of the best methods that I love to use when looking at a process is called DMIC. So that stands for the D, the M, the I, and the C. And it's basically a data-driven technique used to improve processes. It comes from the Lean Six Sigma methodology. And it's good to help us evaluate the actual process we're looking to digitize and innovate on, because there's no point in automating a broken process. So first up, we'll look to define the process that we're wanting to improve, by mapping it out and determining who the customers are and what their requirements are. Then we'll need to measure the process and sort of collect all the data around it, because you would need a baseline to measure it against. And after you've done any implementations, you'd like to obviously say, well, we've saved 50% in efficiencies based on the original process. Next up, we would analyze. So that's, the data collected and process maps to determine the root cause of the defects, and also the possible opportunities for improvement. So then we'd prioritize the various opportunities to improve coming out of the analyze phase, and we would improve the target process by designing creative solutions to fix and possibly prevent future problems. Creating innovative solutions, either using technology or certain disciplines to improve on. And then the last step in the process is just to put in a control, just to make sure that we never revert back to the old way, and that whatever we've implemented does stay on course. Then lastly, the technology that provides the tools that people can use to implement the process. So this helps and should get aid to automate the process. Ideally, I mean, the latest technologies, creates the most impact. So it's very tempting to get attracted to these shiny new tools. However, it is important I feel that the organization makes sure that this technology fits into the organization, the overall process, the people and the process side. You know, I see a lot of times companies make these huge investments into technology to gain strategic advantages, and the people and the process are always sort of the second thought. And then you try to fit the people and process into this technology, whereas, as suggested, you know, the people and process should come first. Okay, next slide. So with innovation, it is important to distinguish what is sort of core business activities and what is actual innovation. So remember the definition we chatted about earlier, where innovation is something new and something valuable. You know, and it's vital to know that difference when we're working with innovation, because with innovation, we do not actually know what the end goal is. It is yet to be discovered, and we have to go on the journey to get there. So the core business operation projects are usually way more concrete. The outcomes are usually pre-planned, and the risks are also assessed to be low enough to ensure a decent return on your investment. So therefore, we already know where we are going and what needs to be done to get there. And this is a bit more precise than an actual innovation project. The results are a lot less, there's a lot less uncertainty in the results. And you know, the project can be broken down into specific pieces, and there are qualified experts working on various sections of the project. Whereas on the innovation side, as mentioned, you know, there is an unknown ending. We don't really know where we are going. This is the first time, so it's uncharted territory. It's obviously going to bring a various amount of unpredictability to the process. It's a lot of trial and error. So we do a lot of like MVPs, minimal viable products, and launches, and it's quite agile. You know, we go back to the client with a certain a solution just to make sure that you are sort of staying on track on the actual requirements. And then start small, because as mentioned, you don't want to invest too much money into something that is more than likely, you know, it's unpredictable, you don't know the ending. So you have to be pretty flexible on that, and just realize there's quite a bit of risk obtained with it when implementing these types of projects. So it's therefore quite important that we categorize and separate the different types of innovation. So from help us see the differences and adapt our efforts to sort of fit in along our strategy. So continuous improvement and incremental innovation are often close to what we usually refer to as R&D, or research and development, and is relating to improving and renewing areas that we're already delivering. So, you know, your core business type activities, and these projects are typically associated with lower degrees of challenges connected to driving innovation. When we get to radical innovation, it's about creating completely new core businesses or new ways of working within the actual company. These projects are capable of interrupting or disrupting an entire industry. You know, if you think of the smartphone, I mean, that was totally disruptive. It was off the charts basically from new, and the whole industry was revolutionized there. Cool. So next up is again that I think defining innovation was really the basis of the whole journey, and you know, so that was very important to hammer home those points. Next up, we're going to be looking at the identifying and removing of obstacles within innovation. So obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or walk around it. That's a quote from Michael Jordan. So first obstacle I'd like to chat about is leadership and organization, not walking the talk. So again, it's important that you know that your objectives and goals come from the top, and if they're not going to be walking the talk, it is quite a big obstacle for the business to end up innovating. And you know, certain questions you'd have to ask is that is innovation part of the company's mission statement? Is innovation a priority for the company? And does the organizational structure actually empower innovation? The next up for an obstacle is the processes and tools. They are too little or too restrictive. So, you know, there might be certain red tape within your different departments or within IT that won't enable you to innovate. There might be some legacy systems which also might cause a really battle to unplug from that and start your innovation journey. The actual tools and resources, do each of these business have enough of them to go forward? Do they have the budget to try out various innovation routes? And you know, are there any sort of incubation platforms for new ideas? Next obstacle identified is people and skills, isolating innovation responsibility. So it's important to look at, do the people have the right skills? Do the people have the right mindset, the right will, the right attitude, as we spoke about earlier? Do they have the time? You know, sometimes we get so busy in our day-to-day work that we often think, oh, this is a, you know, really bad process and I wish we could change it, but you know, you just don't have the time. There's only so many hours in the day. And it's also important that are the people educated and do they understand exactly what innovation is and what it potentially looks like? And finally, the culture and values. You know, I think a big obstacle here is the fear of failure. You know, a lot of people sort of cruise along and happy with how things are going, and the fear to try something different is quite bad. And the culture, again, it flows from that. If you know, if you're too scared to make mistakes or try something new, it really puts a hamper on the innovation journey. And yeah, I think often the culture with a lot of people coming into work now is the instant gratification. So they want everything and they want it now. But we have to learn to sort of embrace the change, to innovate. We need to embed it in the company core values, and just to really start this sense of entrepreneurial attitudes for the rest of the business. Cool. So sharing some opportunities for applying innovation. So I think we've spoken this before on the obstacles is really engraving a culture for innovation. So this is to empower your employees, be intentional about it, you know, and set up structurally that, you know, this culture for innovation is really engraved within the business. You know, looking at existing tech integrations is a good place to start, because some of it might be legacy systems. And there again, you know, we might not always have the budget to completely remove a legacy system and plug something new in. So, you know, there are ways to look at how can we get these legacy systems to communicate between and integrate with other systems in place. Then there is the low-hanging fruit. So, you know, that could be certain quick wins that we could get in place. You know, it's about being agile and creating proof of concepts. A couple of years ago, we we dealt with one client who said they had a real problem with their financial recons of their credit card accounts. So what we did was we just basically built a Excel macro to show them what they did. So they were currently doing it in Excel and deleting lines when two items would match off, and it was really manual process. So what we did was we sort of just plugged in and said, well, this is what we can do based off certain matching logic. We can create this solution for you. And they actually used that solution for 3 to 4 months while we built the actual main solution with a SQL database and a fancy front end, and it could have the bells and whistles. But there are real low-hanging fruit out there where there's quick wins of just sort of going back to the customer or client with minimal viable products for them to start working on. Now, it's important, I believe, always to analyze the growing trends in the market, to try to get out of your bubble and expand the horizon. So some of these trends have really strong momentum in the market, where there's strong trends towards self-education, self-service, virtual experiences and virtual offerings. And I think, COVID has a lot to do with that. And it's definitely a whole new world that we're operating in now, post-COVID. And lastly, create a reward system. Again, this sort of comes in from the culture side of things. And, we at OCTUPUS, we have we encourage entrepreneurship. So we have it's called the Springboard program, where you sort of, any employee of OCTUPUS can come pitch an idea, and it goes straight to the CEO. So he listens to your pitch of a business idea, and he listens to it. And if they like it, they actually give you 6 months to paid leave, sabbatical, to work on your idea. And they say that they will guarantee your salary for those months, and they will be your first client of your actual pitch. And if it works after the 6 months and you're happy, then you can leave your job. And if not, they give you the security that you can remain again with the company. So it's all about creating certain reward system, and that really comes from the top and driving this reward system. Cool. I can see we're a bit pressed for time, so I'm just going to quickly run through the rest of the slides. We're almost at the end. Just some practical examples of digital automation here, and I'm sure they are quite well known and common, is automating portions of customer care with chatbots, and it's also important that we sort of embrace a new digital workplace that is less dependent on being located or working in the office. So just the last one, how to accelerate innovation and digital transformation within your organization. So firstly, I think it's very important that every company or every business, every team understands the current state of play. You need to sort of understand where you are at and how you are currently performing. You need to define your own innovation. What does innovation mean to you? What does it mean to the business? What does success look like? And sort of set goals and decide on where you want to go. Then next up, we should definitely look to liberate and free your data. So I think business should definitely own the data and shouldn't sit within IT. And this requires data to be separate from legacy systems, potentially sit in data warehouse, so that all team in business has access to this data to perform certain measurements on it and do their analysis on it. Next up, we have focus on the customer. It's really important. Businesses exist to serve customers and fulfill their needs. And a human-centered design is a powerful way to understand evolving behaviors and preferences. We really need to focus on doing your research when introducing new techs, and also those minimal viable products. Just always going back to the customer. Do you like this? and just to make sure that they are kept in the loop and part of that journey of innovation. Next up, creates a learn it all culture. So learning should definitely be embedded in the corporate culture so that people learn how to continue to adapt to the changing world that we are living in. And lastly, businesses should look to adapt hybrid working models. So this, I mean, I really think now the hybrid working model is here to stay, and it's time to maybe make them more scalable. Deloitte has recently told 20,000 UK employees that they can all work from home indefinitely if they wish. I know a lot of companies are doing the 2 to 3 days work from home scenario. So it's really going to be a new way of working, and we have to try and set up our teams to encompass all of these areas, just to make sure that we are always looking to innovate across the different platforms and in different areas. So yes, that is the end of my presentation. I hope I have not overrun in any way.
No,